So this is a video for Tandy. I think most of you know I'm quite a fan of the Dragon 32, which is based on the same reference design as the CoCo computer. Dragon doesn't have its own months for video, so we'll hijack the Tandy, I think. Also, the TRS-80 Model 1 was the first computer I was able to take home. The RE maths teacher lent me one from school, which is very kind of him to write a Cecil interpreter. So I've definitely got a very big soft spot for the Tandy range. Plus, of course, we had a Tandy store in Cardiff, which was great fun to go and visit. And in fact, one of the items I've got for the Dragon is a Color Computer graphics book, which is the only way you could learn a little bit about the Dragon before there were some really good books available for it. So we're going to catch you up now with where we are with the Dragon 32 that I'm upgrading to 64, because 64s are quite expensive to get hold of, and I have the 80 column card for it from John, and although it fits and works in my Dragon 32, it's very difficult to use any software for it in that environment. It does really need a Dragon 64, so that's how we're going to get there. So I had an old Dragon 32 that wasn't working, so my first step was to fix that. I suspected a lower RAM fault, and being as though that's the first thing you've got to take out anyway, I did so. I soldered some sockets back in, which allowed me to then put in what I've got is 8 known good RAM chips, 16 by 1, and sure enough it's now a Dragon 16. Actually, if we zoom in, we'll use a little bit of the tester. I've tested all the RAM chips in it, and it's a nice little tester I bought off of the Bay, which is a quick way of testing these sort of chips. And well, reality is there was only one faulty one, and all the rest test okay despite having been desoldered, which is quite good. So onwards then, let's take a look at where we are with the Dragon 32 and what's involved in getting it up to a 64 memory, and hopefully we can get it working today on video, and we can look at perhaps fitting the 80 column card as well, and perhaps even loading some of the software that works with that we can use. Obviously the lid off. I'm going to actually remove, I think, all the parts from it. It's just the keyboard's already been unscrewed, and I've had the board out for working on, so we're going to take it back out to make a bit of space to work on so the keyboard can go away safely. And I've left the actual power unit in, so you can see these are the memory chips I placed to prove it was working. And of course we've got the ROMs. That's the one I had to repair because it had a broken pin, so I just fixed it into a socket. So this board should come out. We'll have to take the RAMs out, put them somewhere safe. So remove the power connector, and this should come out of here easily. Yep, there we go. So we can put the actual Dragon aside for the moment and just work on the board itself. Probably going to find now that my my memory chip extractor is downstairs, as is usual, but shouldn't be too hard to get these out. They've only just gone into new sockets, so hopefully they'll lift out fairly easily, and we know they work. I'm actually going to get the chip lifter. So this is make things a little bit easier, I think. Once you've got the glasses on as well. That cap is definitely in the wrong place. Okay, right, so I printed off the instructions from the Dragon forum. So modifying the decoder, check that IC26 is a 6821, which it is. That's IC26 on the board by there, which is a 6821, and IC33 is a 74LS138, which of course it's going to be. Where's IC33? I've found that's down here. So that's the 74LS138, and I think it's IC31, well, 3L, it says IC31, which is going to be there, and that is the LSO2. So the gate on pins 1, 2 and 3 unused. Join pin 12 of IC31 to pin 3 of IC31. Okay, so IC31 here. So we want a patch cable from Just make sure you get the right side of the board, yeah. So on a patch cable from pin 12 of IC31, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so it's that one, to pin 3 of IC31. So basically we're bridging across those two there. We want some wire probably of some kind we can do a little patch with. We're going to need some scalpel as well, so cut a short piece off. Actually, let's put a bit of fresh solder on those pins. I haven't done that yet. It's not a huge amount of soldering. Sorry about the I got the window open, so we're getting quite there's a lot of motorbikes on the way over Barry Island today, isn't there? I think that'll count as a neat enough little job. Okay, so we've done 12 to pin 3 of IC31, pin 2 of IC31 to pin 21 of IC26. 20, yeah, so 21 is that pin there. So pin 21 of IC26 up to pin 2. So again, we'll put a little bit of tin in on the pins we've got to deal with. But that should be about right. Pin 2 is that side, so it's the wrong one. Always check when you're working backwards on chips. I make a mistake all the time. Number of patches I have to reverse. But yeah, just double check it. Yep, so pin IC31, pin 2 is that side. Okay. Reassemble and check all still works. Really. I think we'll do step 3 and then check actually. So join pin 1 of IC31 to pin 5 of IC33. That's confusing as IC30 it goes up down, so 29, 30, 31, 32. Okay, that's why. So it's actually quite convenient then. So pin 1. I'll probably take a photograph of this afterwards. It'll be a handy reference for anyone else doing it because I couldn't find a picture of it online. I much prefer visual to lists of things to do. So pin 5 of IC33, which is that way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need some solder on pin 1. Yeah, actually they're quite close now. Bend that away. And that can go down then to pin 5 by there. So if we take that off at that point, cut it off afterwards, I think. Gives me enough room to work. Snip it a bit short. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just snipping that bit of extra cable wire off there. And I overshot that patch. I finally cut the connection between pin 5 of IC33 and pin 8 of IC33. Okay, so that's actually, there's a loop there, I think 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. Okay, so to make sure it's gone, I actually remove quite a bit of metal rather than just make a cut. The heat will lift the track. There we go. And just under a magnifying glass then, just check there's no... Yep, exactly, the track had actually gone and shorted the next cable over. Isn't that clever? Okay, so that's now just cut that little track there that links the two pins, and in theory now that's the mods for the decoder circuitry finished. So should have, and if you've now got half good 64K RAMs, you should be able to explore what you've got in them, but I haven't. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put the chips back, I'm going to put the Dragon back together, I'm going to give it a quick test. Well, that worked fine, and also while I was looking I managed to find some extra diagram sheets that go with the documents I downloaded. It's a little bit of what the before and after of the decode looks like, which is handy, so because you can do it externally as well. So plus some sketches of the pinouts of the chips and things, so you know what you're working with. That's quite handy. So there we go. Always pays to do a bit better searching, doesn't it? So the next thing to do now is to obviously remove those chips finally and actually modify the board. Because obviously this is a Mark II board, so I've just stitched together just the notes needed for that one. I've already done all the chip removal, as I've said. So what we need to do is to remove the 5V line on pins 1 to be chopped. There's quite a lot of cutting and rerouting, so let's get those chips out again and put away. So now we're into some modifications of the circuit. So breaking the 5V rail on pin 1, which is there, TR4 and R69. Doesn't seem to go anywhere, so I think that is just a stub. I'm 99% certain that goes nowhere. Okay, so all we need to do then is to cut it. He means the top of the board near the PSU socket. So that's the TR4 connection, I think, and that is the leg that goes to the tantalum, maybe. Yep. So that would take the tantalum out of circuit, which maybe TR4 is relying on as well. So I think actually the safest place to cut it, because the only place it goes on the top there, I think it's safer to cut it there, leaving the tantalum into the circuit that TR4 is working with. And it's important for me because I've got Motorola 6665 chips, which apparently does give a problem. Maybe R69 is after TR4. Yeah, chances are it's one of those two resistors there. But I still think it's a good idea to leave that tant in circuit. So let's take it out at that point. It's probably the easiest place to reinstate as well if I need to. Just softens the glue and allows you to make a complete cut through of the trace easily. Can always be bridged afterwards. So now in theory the leg of TR4, if I left my meter on blast, I flattened the battery on it. Great, let's go and get another meter. Another repair job. Having a workshop separate to your bench where you do all your retro computing is handy, except when you're going to run up and downstairs getting bit. But there we go, got another meter now. So in theory, pin 1 and the base of TR4 should be severed. Yep, okay, so and it's not through. Let's just prove that it does connect if I connect to the actual cut track. Yeah, it does. So actually I am completely isolated. Pin 1 on both sets of RAMs is now gone. That's okay, good. To start, let's turn the meter off. Useful hint and tip, always turn your meter off when you're not using it, even if you're going to use it in 2 minutes time. Right, next step then, so we cut the -5V line. The 12V line on pin 8 must be chopped. It's a through line en route to the cartridge port, so the through circuit completed by a tidy patch wire. Okay, so pin 8 then, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so that's down there. So why have we got all these caps on there? they all on the 12 volt line. And then again, if I cut the 12 volt line there on the top, I actually I'd save the need to disconnect all those capacitors as well. Yep, let's just check that out. So I think that is this line here, pin 8, which is going to these, put the meter back on obviously. So I think pin 8 there is going to these caps. Oh, it's diode test. That's better. Yes, it does indeed. So that goes to there as well. I think, yeah, probably easy to put a patch wire in and cut the 12 volt there. Okie dokie, we shall do that then. I'll cut it by there. And scrape off some of the mask so we can solder to it. And we will cut it there by, take a little bit of the solder mask off there. Yep. So basically what I've done now is I've a bit there, and we'll cut through with an iron now at those 2 points. Get it nice and hot. Making a bit of a mess here. Let's try this one. Actually put a bit of solder on that trace one, at it. Yeah, that's definitely broken now. I can smell the Yep. And put some solder on the other side. We should have no continuity from here to here, or from here to the pin 8. Nope, but we will have from pin 8 to there and from pin 8 to there. Yeah, okay. So the 12 volt line is now gone, and all the caps are just redundant actually. But we'll leave them in case we ever want to restore this with a neat job. And so we just need a bit of wire now to put the, because it's a 12 volt line, maybe I'll do something a little more substantial, just a bit of that patch wire. And I got something decent. Where's my wire gone? There we go. So it's pretty invisible, that bit of green wire along there should restore connectivity. Again, test as you go along, and then you won't get any surprises. So we should have connection to that pin out, yeah, which we have in the cartridge port, but I should have nothing to pin 8s on any of these chips. Nope. Oh, nothing. Okay, excellent. So that's the next one then. That's the minus 12 volt line. Right, the 5 volt line, pin 9, 8th address line. Remove any bypass capacitors on the line. Okay, well that's going to need this, I think. So we'll get the desoldering tool warmed up. Okay, so this is slightly more complex than it looked originally, because the patch I've made on the 12, we're actually going to reuse the 12 volt line underneath to take the 5 volt, the old 5 volt line, which used to be on pin 9 there. So we've got to cut it at the ends there, and we're going to reuse and divert it via the nice thick trace that is the old 12 volt line. So, and then we're going to use that 5 volt line, I believe, for an address line, I think. How are we going to get the 5 volt onto that pin then? Because the 5 volt needs to go to pin 8. Right, it doesn't actually mention restoring 5 volts to pin 8. We need to cut then. So that puts will put all of those decoupling capacitors into use again, I think, as well. So where are the bypass capacitors on that line then from pin 8? That's a lot of 5 volt capacitors being removed, isn't it? But there we go. There we go. Okay, so that's all the decoupling caps out of the circuit. Now, if I didn't know I was taking them out, I could have taken them out earlier. Would have made life a lot easier, wouldn't it? So, it does mean there's not a lot of decoupling on the 5V rail, although we've left in C49, so there's some there. So I think actually the easiest way to restore connectivity there, you've got to bridge the 5V rail to the old 12V rail. Might be easier with just another patch wire, to be honest. Those were 12V ones. What's going on here? I've got this wrong again. Maybe putting them back in. Definitely need some diagrams, doesn't it? I was thinking flex so I could run it a bit more neatly, but that should restore the 5V continuity now too. I think it's that pin on there. Yeah, and it should be gone from, yeah. So that's the 5V bit done. I think we can turn that off a minute now and make a bit less noise, can we? So I don't think those patch caps were hurting, but they were on the 12V line. So they would have been on the 5 if I'd have bypassed it. Pins 4, so there's a patch wire needed from pins 4 up to this newly created line. So if I do a little bit more there, so this is going to come from pin 4 of bank 1, it says. And there, so what we've got is a patch wire running from there on pin 1, 2, 3, 4 of bank 1 round to the new line here. Okay, so that's I assume we can have continuity now to pin 4 here to each of these pins. But not to 5V, no. Okay. I can't see any bypass capacitors on that line. All of those capacitors decouple that pin there, which is the top right pin, which is pin 8, which was 12V and is going to be 5V. Hey, if you're doing that, don't take all those out because they are going to become your 5V decoupler capacitors. Signal bit of FF22 is done by disconnecting pin 12 of IC35 from R73. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which is not connected to anything there, like that. That R73, I wonder whether there's a track underneath the chip. Let's have a little look. It's in line roughly with pin 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, it is. And it's currently, so R73 is pulled up then. So if we desolder R73, I think, I don't see how you're going to get 5V to these chips. I think there's a step missing, because that's been cut. So I think if we use that as the, I think that's got to become the 5V rail. You can't use, that was a bit chaotic. The battery's running low, so we're going to shut down now. But basically I've made most of the changes you need on this board. We're just going to have to establish a 5V, remove that R73 there and tie it to ground somewhere suitable with a little patch wire. And like I say, I'm going to restore those caps, I think, because they're going to become the 5V rail, but we'll see. Okay, pardon the handheld. I've plugged the chips in. I did have to put most of those decouplers back in, and you have to use that rail to divert the 5V, which I've now done rather than a patch wire, because of course that's how the chips get the 5V. So let's see what happens. I haven't turned it on yet. What we got? I have checked the voltages. Yes, look at that. Dragon working. Hey! Wow, I'll have to put a keyboard on now to actually see what free memory it's got, won't we? So it's got a keyboard on it now, so we'll power it back up again and have a little look. Yep, so if we print, is it called mem? Oops. 24871, which is proper Dragon 64 again, so the RAM is working. Now we need to do a little bit of work and see if it's actually got the 64K up. Hey, that's a good start, isn't it? So there we are. I think that is going to be a 64K Dragon once we've finished mecking around with it, so let's see what's happening now. The other mod that needs to be made is down here in the bottom corner. You need to patch out R73's removed, the 4.7K pull up, and then you patch to ground, which I thought was easiest done that way. And that's it. Other than that, you've seen everything on the film, I think. So there we go. That's look at what we got to do to test now. I'll probably do some capture off the screen to be able to do that. One thing I will do, we'll have a little bit of a see what the 64K version of Dungeons does, shall we? So I think that's in the games directory. We'll do a bit of capture so you can see it a bit closer. We're going to games, and hopefully Dungeons is, there we go. And it should load and recognise as 64K. And you should get the music. Does it recognise 64K? Yeah. And does the music play? No. Why? Sometimes I got a bit of a fiddle with my speaker. Yes, definitely a fault on my speaker. I must get a better lead for my speaker, I think. There you go. There we are. And obviously you can select which when you play as. Ooh, and then off you go. All right then.